All right, could a Trey Lance trade happen during the 2023 NFL Draft? Something to watch for with the draft set to begin in just a couple of hours tonight, 8 o'clock Eastern, 5 o'clock Pacific. For me, there are two teams to watch out for here. If the Houston Texans pass up on a quarterback at number 2 overall, they could then trade for Trey Lance at some point over the next 3 days. If the Texans do take a quarterback, let's say C.J. Stroud after Bryce Young goes off the board, number 1 to the Carolina Panthers, then you can forget about Trey Lance reuniting with his former defensive coordinator DeMeco Ryans and Bobby Slowick, who's now the Texans offensive coordinator. He was the pass game coordinator for San Francisco last year. The other team is the Tennessee Titans, and they're looking for a quarterback because Ryan Tannehill is mid. He's not the future long-term answer, and Malik Willis flat out stinks. So the Titans, another team to keep an eye on here. There's some chatter, though. They could move up to take a quarterback, or depending on how the board falls and which quarterbacks go off the board, let's say a C.J. Stroud type could fall to Tennessee at number 11, then the Titans then have their future quarterback. If the Titans do not draft a signal caller, they could too make a Trey Lance trade. Why are there connections to Lance in Nashville? Rand Carthen used to be the director of pro personnel for San Francisco, was in that front office since 2017 as part of the John Lynch, Kyle Shanahan regime. He was a part of the front office that drafted Trey Lance. I also thought that this report from ESPN's Jeremy Fowler in the lead up to the draft pretty interesting and adds some context here. While Trey Lance's future, he said, with San Francisco is uncertain, several executives saw Sam Darnold signing in free agency as significant. Quote, I think he plays meaningful snaps for them early on. An AFC executive said he's a great fit for their system. Brock Purdy is injured. Something to file away here during draft week as some of these trade talks do intensify, though Lance could be valuable to San Francisco while Purdy is out. The 49ers would likely need a substantial return for Lance, whose contract would leave the team with $11 million in dead money. While Purdy appears to be in line to start in 2023, he still needs time to recover from significant elbow surgery. I understand that John Lynch had said all throughout this week that the Niners plan on having Lance on this roster in 2023, and it makes sense given the uncertainty and some of the problems with Brock Purdy's elbow. But if the Niners get blown away by an offer at some point in the draft, and they can move up from 99 overall, which is at the tail end of the third round, to earlier on in the third round to get a player who they covet, or maybe slide up into the second round, I think that offer might be too good for San Francisco to pass up on. So with that, today's poll question is this before we start taking your questions. Will Trey Lance get traded over the next 3 days in the NFL Draft? Give me a Y for yes or an N for no down in the comment section. Another programming reminder, going to be live right here on the 49ers Report for the third round. And coming up next, took some questions pre-draft from the faithful from our live show on Tuesday. Here's what the people had to ask me, and here are my answers.
What's good? Welcome in. You're watching the San Francisco 49ers Report right here on Chat Sports. I'm Chase Sr. And no matter where you are or how you're tuned in on this day of the 2023 NFL Draft, we appreciate all of you for watching the show. Coming your way, going to take all of the questions that you have. Last opportunity for you to get your questions on the show that have to do with the NFL Draft. And speaking of that, the Niners, as of right now, don't pick until 99th overall. And on the 49ers Report, we'll be going live for the entire third round of the draft. But rounds 1 and 2, make sure you hop on board our main Chat Sports YouTube channel draft coverage for the most watched NFL draft coverage on YouTube. It begins Thursday, 6 o'clock Eastern. A lot of question marks, a lot of drama, a lot of rumors heading into round 1. I feel like there's so much uncertainty around what's going to happen and the drama of it going to be straight up epic. Subscribe, youtube.com/ChatSportsTV. John Wallace getting things kicked off with the $5 donation. What up, faithful? Hope everyone is well. Bang, bang, Niner gang. He wants to see San Francisco draft a right tackle. And with where the Niners are on the board, I do have a list put together of some of the top right tackle targets who San Francisco could select when their pick comes around at 99 overall, or if they want to move up to take somebody as well. DeJuan Jones out of Ohio State might go in the second round just because of the importance of that position. Tyler Steen is a player who I really, really like. Nick Saldiveri out of Old Dominion getting a lot of traction for a small school guy. Blake Freeland, very, very good player who I've selected on a couple of my mock drafts. And then Carter Warren out of Pitt. All of these realistic right tackle options for the Niners in the NFL draft. So John Wallace, he said that right tackle, biggest need on the Niners roster. Do you agree with him? I agree. What do you think? Let us know. Chualor, another one of our OG loyal subscribers. How much should we pay Nick Bosa? And is this Kinlaw's last chance with us? So Nick Bosa realistically could get the largest contract ever for a defensive player. And I actually had a dream a couple of weeks ago that Nick Bosa made more than Aaron Donald, who set the record for making $30 million per year for a defensive player. Because the salary cap is going to increase, because of the leverage that Nick Bosa has, winning Defensive Player of the Year, the fact that in 2022, 18.5 sacks. The year before that, 15-plus sacks. He is a game wrecker. And when you're building an organization, you of course want to check off quarterback. But you want to protect the quarterback, and you want somebody who's going to blitz and sack the quarterback. And he is a pillar of your franchise. So Chua, he could make north of $30 million. Speaking of a real one, Wet Noodle 187. I kind of like what Josh Gordon is doing for the Sea Dragons in the XFL. Any thoughts on it? Look, Josh Gordon has been an intriguing name for several years. Unfortunately for him, it's been a long time, Wet Noodle, since he turned in a great year at the NFL level. Like when he was playing with the Cleveland Browns, he was physical dynamite. A guy who could come down with the 50-50 balls, pick up yards after the catch, had pull-away speed, had everything to his route tree. I think it's absolutely bogus that he got suspended so many times just for smoking some weed, because he could have gone out to California and it would have been legal. But for the NFL, they had the bogus rules back in the day, and now they don't even test for it. So that kind of shafted Josh Gordon to a certain degree. For the Sea Dragons, yeah, he's been playing some pretty solid football. Bring him in, compete for a roster spot, shoot. That's cool with me. I just don't think that the Niners are going to do it. Speaking of the draft here, we're going to be going nuts during our live coverage right here on the 49ers Report. Super Chat giveaways, Super Chat games, and of course, we're going to be slugging down some beers, taking down some Happy Dads, hopefully some High Noons. Not a sponsor. You know, it is a sponsor, ZBiotics, which allows me to bounce back after a couple of drinks. You can get 15% off at zbiotics.com/chatsports. It is a pre-alcohol probiotic, and it's the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by PhD scientists to tackle rough mornings after drinking. And here's how it works. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut, and it's this byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for your rough next day. Well, ZBiotics produces an enzyme to break this byproduct down, and it's designed to work like your liver, but in your gut, where you need it the most. Drink ZBiotics before drinking alcohol. Drink responsibly, of course, and get a good night's sleep to feel your best tomorrow. Give it a try for yourself. zbiotics.com/chatsports. They also have a 100% money-back guarantee, so if you're unsatisfied for any reason, which would shock me, they'll refund your money, no questions asked. We'll put that link in the comment section and in the description of this video. Harold, do you think that the 49ers will trade any of the current players on the roster during the NFL draft? Trey Lance could be a player that is traded, although that would surprise me given what John Lynch said earlier this week. I don't think that Brandon Ayuk is going to get dealt because it doesn't make sense. Why would you trade a player who's your best wide receiver for a team that is ready to win right now? He continues to get better, and he could be a cost-controlled asset for the next 2 years. Elijah Mitchell could get dealt. Javon Kinlaw for a late-round pick. Ty Davis-Price. Those are some of the players that I think could get dealt by the Niners. Maybe even an Ambry Thomas if a player really likes him at that cornerback position. Evan Hinders, a guy who loves the game of football and evaluating it. Should the Niners call Kareem Hunt? I don't think so. I think the Niners are set at that running back spot because you think about it, right? Christian McCaffrey's making a lot of money. He was incredible last year. Niners were undefeated and averaged more than 30 points per game after the trade up until the NFC Championship game. You have Jordan Mason, who I think can be an excellent number 2 back, and frankly, I want to see more from him next year. Ty Davis-Price could be your RB3. Elijah Mitchell is one of the better backup running backs in the NFL if he can just stay healthy. So I think your stable of running backs are pretty good, and I think Kareem Hunt could get paid a little bit more by another team in the NFL than what San Francisco is willing to pay him. Nathan Barriga, should we draft a running back? Yeah, no, I don't think that the Niners are going to draft I don't think they need to. Let me preface it by saying that. But can San Francisco help themselves? If Tyjae Spears is on the board, they might really like him. They met with Roschon Johnson, the backup running back behind Bijan Robinson, for a pre-draft visit. This is a team that runs the football a lot. So while I don't think they need a running back, they do have an emphasis on running backs because they all seem to get injured. So I'm not throwing that out of the window. Chua, how much should we pay Nick Bosa, and is this Javon Kinlaw's last year with us? So I think that Nick Bosa is going to get more than $30 million per year, and for Javon Kinlaw, this could be his last chance, honestly. Look, he hasn't basically done anything for much of his career. He has really, really struggled to stay healthy. He is physically a beast, but that doesn't matter if you can't stay on the football field. GM Evan Hinders with this one. Should the Niners draft Siaki Ika if he's there in the 3rd round? That might be a little bit too early for him, but you look at the numbers with what he did at Baylor last couple of years. 48 tackles, 8 tackles for loss, 3.5 sacks, 3 pass breakups. He's a pretty good run-stopping defensive tackle. I don't know about where you said, but maybe a little bit later on. And San Francisco, you think about it, right? Javon Hargrave is a straight-up pass-rushing defensive tackle. He is not really a run-stopping defensive tackle. So maybe you bring in a guy like this, and he could help stop the run. Hitman L with the $5 super chat. Been a little while, Hitman L. Thanks for that donation. Good to see you once again. I look into trading Bosa right now. He's going to want a stupid big contract. Plus, in the Super Bowl, they're just going to let any bum hold him all game. But to get to the Super Bowl, you need an elite edge rusher. And it's one of the more important positions on a football field. And Nick Bosa is an extremely special talent who's still in his mid-20s, still has a lot of prime years left, and edge rushers last a long time in this league. And John Lynch also said, hotline is closed. It was never open for Nick Bosa. So I don't think he's going to get traded, but yes, he's going to get a massive contract, Hitman L. It's going to be more than $30 million, I believe. Jesus Velez. Hey, Chase, do you think that Trey will win the starting role against Darnold to start the year? It's all on the table for Trey Lance. The opportunity is right in front of him. All he has to do is win it. And if he squanders the opportunity to be this team's starting quarterback in week 1, that's on him. If he falls flat on his face, he's to blame for that. He has an opportunity to go out there and earn and get every single first-team rep throughout this offseason. And if he craters, if he struggles, it's a pretty big bust for San Francisco. And if he loses that job to Sam Darnold, that's a bad job by Trey. You can't say that the Niners didn't give him any opportunities if they give him an opportunity to win this job and he falls flat on his face. Logan, last question of this mailbag pre-draft. If the Niners trade up in the draft for an edge rusher, who would you want them to take? Man, I mean, I think that if they stay put in the 3rd round, Yaya Diaby out of Louisville is a really solid player. B.J. Ojulari is a 2nd-round target who's pretty good. I'm trying to think, too. Those are some solid players. Miles Murphy could slip into the 2nd round. So, Logan, that's if San Francisco moves all the way up into the 2nd round. But they'd have to give up probably all 3 of their 3rd-round picks, 2 of their 3rd-round picks. The problem with their 3rd-round selections, they do have 3 of them. They're all at the end of the 3rd round. So those are some players right there. I don't think San Francisco's going to move up that early, though. Why not stay put? Seme Fahoku out of, San Jose State. Also a pretty good player as well. If you helped us get to 80,000 subscribers, type Real One down in the chat. Last Friday, it was our 80,000 subscriber celebration. It was absolutely awesome. And thanks to all of you who hopped on board, joined the show, and celebrated with us. And if you were a part of the people, part of the crew that got us to 80,000 in the first place, we appreciate you. Type Real One.